you would recognize him by three things. Will close your eyes and listen to the explosive laughter. Notice, when he laughs, whenever in a ballroom or something, you can spot him right away. Bob Ehrmann. And you can recognize him when he stands. When he stands, you can't miss him at all. And the third, and last but not least, by his love for nanotechnology. He just loves nanotechnology and anything that relates to it. And let me read here, so I introduce you to the man. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Robert Ehrmann, is the managing director of the Center for Nanotechnology Education and Utilization. If you like acronyms, it is CNEU. Pennsylvania Nanofabrication Manufacturing Technology, NMT. Partnership, NSF National Nanotechnology Applications, that's one title. And Career Knowledge, NACK. Network at Pennsylvania State University. The National Center Nanotechnology Applications and Career Knowledge, NAC, at Penn State, established in September 2008 and renewed in September 2012, so it's very fresh, has a mission to provide assistance, curriculum, workshops, webinars, remote access to laboratory tools, as you will see tomorrow, live, to existing or developing micro nanofabrication education and workforce development programs at post-secondary institutions across the United States. The highlight of the material which NAC has to offer are the fully developed and continually evolving 6 undergraduate level nanotechnology courses. So any chairs or deans here want to adopt courses, just get them. They are online and you can start right away the program, which have been offered in Pennsylvania as part of nanotechnology capstone semester since 1998, and they are updated yearly, I think, or something. The lectures and labs for these courses can be downloaded at Nano4Me. And remember that the 4 is the letter 4, not the digit 4, nano4me.org, and utilized at institutions across the United States. They are free of charge, and everybody can benefit. In addition to providing the many resources above, the NAC network has helped to establish hand-on gold standard community technical technology college partnership with universities in 7 states. And I hope Illinois will be the 8th. As well as Puerto Rico, with more partnerships in planning stages. Today you'll see it. Tomorrow, please plan to come because there are cookies tomorrow. The session tomorrow, Thursday, 10/17, from 10 to 11, if you can manage to bring your students even, held at Charleston Mattoon Room in the Union. Here on campus is titled The NAC Network Providing Nano for Me and for You, presented by Mr. Robert Ehrmann, and he will give us live connection cyber thing, and it's very interesting, not only to see the lab there, but to have access to click and do things. So without much nano ado, please welcome.
Thank you. We good? Are we good? Great. Okay. When he was first doing the certificates, I had my thing on, was moving around, and was disturbed that first part of the certificate. So I apologize for messing up the tape. But Wafiq, you were brilliant. Brilliant.
Me?
Yes.
I'm looking
yes.
back.
Most of these people were here for the dessert, not for the nano. Thank you very much for that. There was never a plan for dessert, actually. So actually, when Wafiq and I were talking, he came to a workshop, one of our workshops, and it's one of the things we do is post-secondary workshops for people across the country. Educators and administrators across the country are interested in learning about our program, learning about nanotechnology in general, and then also learning about how we deliver our courses, train-the-trainer courses, if you will. That we actually, I think you're a graduate, you have our certificate now, right?
Yes.
From there, so he's graduated from there, and he understands how we deliver, what we're delivering, and that's what we're bringing to the country. And I'm jumping ahead of myself, but he asked me to do this, I don't know, a while ago, and he said, oh, it's going to come this fall, it's going to come this fall, it's going to come this fall sometime, and he asked me about times, and then last month I wrote him an email and said, so when is that time again? We didn't have the time. He said, oh man, it's this date, whatever, it's 16th and 17th, and I went, oh, I didn't know that, I scheduled over the top of it. But then he did his arm twisting, and somebody said he was talking about it and said, oh, please, can you do that? So I'm here. Rearranged a little bit. So I'm part of this NAC network, as you heard, all those acronyms. In our logo there, it's Building College University Partnerships for Nanotechnology Workforce Development. That's kind of our main mission. It says everything about us. So I am the managing director at NAC. I am not a PhD. Somebody referred to me as Dr. Ehrmann earlier. That's my wife. She has the PhD, so we're Mr. and Dr. That's the reason I'm there, is because my wife was in a PhD program. I was working for a manufacturing company, Corning Incorporated, and my last stop was in State College, Pennsylvania. And I have as Rafik said, I have a engineering degree, an undergraduate engineering degree, and an MBA. So my roles were in management and engineering and so on like that. So the person who was the director here was looking for someone with a science background that was actually had some science and technology background and could actually talk to people and go out there and coordinate the program with management skills. And he had to settle for me. So anyway, that's as good as it gets, guys. So if you're not going to laugh at that, I'm sorry. So what's the desired outcome today is to kind of talk a little bit about nanotechnology, some basics of nanotechnology. Because I did talk to a couple people, did a little surveying, and some people said, well, I have a little bit of knowledge of nanotechnology. Some of them, I'm sure, are experts and really have a very good understanding, so I apologize. But I want to make sure that everyone here has a little bit of nano understanding, if you will, or nano understanding of nano, if you will. And then also what it is, why you should care. Okay, so talking about applications that are out there, jobs, future predictions, and things like that, just kind of giving you an update on that, and where you can find it. We're going to spend tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I believe, talking more about resources. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about resources tonight, but the most of it's going to be talking about those first two. I think that's what you were desiring tonight. Is that correct? Cool. But I want to at least give you, for those of you who can't make it tomorrow, give you a good understanding at least of what we do. So we have till 11, you said? Yes. 11 p.m. And then we'll have the dessert, right? Some nano basics, if you will. So I'm not going to talk the whole time. I want to get some understanding from the room about nanotechnology. Give me people, tell me what you know about nanotechnology, people in the room. I know there's knowledge in the room. Now you can't talk though because you've been to our workshop, okay? So somebody from the nanotechnology. What is nanotechnology? Or give me you don't have to give me the whole definition. Come on, don't be shy.
Small stuff.
Okay, small stuff. How small? You were the first to talk. Okay. Okay, all right, cool. Well, you were the first to talk, so you get this. We reward people who talk here.
Awesome.
By the way, our website's on there. Shameless advertising. All right. Who else? Something else. Small stuff. Atoms. Anything else?
Little machines.
Little machines. Okay, we're going to give you. I'm going to throw you one of the. Yeah, why not? Right? Potentially, right? What else? Anything else? Excellent. Some applications, excellent. Okay, there you go. You needed that pen, didn't you? Okay, so well, you see how it works now, right? With the. Okay, so I can tell you guys anything. It sounds like because you don't really know more. I know there's more knowledge in this room than you guys are letting on, but nanotechnology is a broad term referring to manipulation of matter at the atomic level. Somebody said groups of some atoms, basically. Encompasses many scientific disciplines. I noticed that you're all from many different disciplines here. When you were talking earlier, science and technology, there's some business people here. It's all integrated into nanotechnology, lots of things going on. And it impacts daily life and our future greatly. Do people believe that? Yes? Okay. Daily life today, okay, it's impacting us. So This is actually, this talk is titled The Nanotech Revolution, if you will. And, excuse me, and this is actually not my words. This is the words of the NNI, which is the National Nanotechnology Initiative. And that's actually out of DC. It's an organization that's on furlough right now. That but because I actually tried to get something from them last week, and I got the thing that came back that said, we're not here. Call us back when the government starts back up. But they have things like, they do things like have a website called nano.gov and nano.gov, and they've actually tried to keep track of what's going on with nanotechnology in the country. It's a great place to go to look for kind of like solicitations and things like that. If you're looking for solicitations and you're looking for things, go there, and they keep up track on that, what's going on in the government and that kind of stuff, what's going on in applications and so on. It's really a nice site. Some really, you know, if you want to go home and talk to your spouse or your kids or whatever, and I don't have enough of these, unfortunately, for everyone, but please grab them. But these are like Nanotechnology 101 brochure that put out by them. And you can actually get these by just writing to the here on the back here, or calling them, and they'll send you hundreds of them or thousands of them if you want to give them out. So this is kind of an intro to nano brochure. It's a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about tonight. And this is another brochure called Nano and Energy, so kind of alternative energy type stuff where nano is working. So this is their vision that they recently put, I think it's 2012. NNI vision, and they've been around since the end of the Clinton administration. The NNI is at now, I was at a celebration in Washington a couple of years ago, and I think it's the year 2000 is when it started. But it's a future in which the ability to understand and control matter at the nanoscale leads to a revolution, and that's good that this talk was entitled Revolution, in technology and industry that benefits society. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight, about where we are in that coming or revolution that's happening right now. This is the definition that came out of a group from the NNI, the official definition, and you guys have sat in rooms, probably took them 4 days to come up with that definition, I'm pretty sure. But the creation of functional materials, devices, and systems through control of matter at the scale of 1 to 100 nanometers, not 0 to 100 nanometers. It's not down at the subatomic level or into the atom type thing. And the exploitation of the novel properties and phenomena at that same scale. Okay? So first we're going to talk about another audience participation quiz for you here, a little bit relationship. Well, nobody said it before, but a nanometer is 10 to the negative 9th meters, or a billionth of a meter. And if now we'll do a little proportion relationships here. If a nanometer were the size of a marble, okay? Nanometer were the size of a marble, so about down to the negative 9th meters is really the size of a marble now, then a meter would be the size of, we're going to vote on this. Who says A, the sun? You got to raise your hand for one of these. You have to, I'm keeping track. Raise your hand for one of these. A, the sun. B, the earth. Who says earth? Okay. Who says C, the moon? Who says the Grand Canyon's depth? Did everybody vote? Really? Did everybody vote? Okay. All right. And the answer is the earth. So we get everybody who won that, who doesn't already have a pen. Raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you get another one. I'm going to poke an eye out here, right? Anybody else there? There you go. There you go. It's like candy. There you go. All right, great.
Like dessert.
What's that?
Like dessert.
Like dessert. It's the dessert.
Closest we're going to get.
All right. So a little bit more about the size. That's a red blood cell, which is about 2.5 microns in the middle there. Okay. So if you didn't know, now you're coming out of this with the knowledge that a red blood cell is 2.5 microns. Anybody know what that is? I'm sure you do. DNA. So you know you get a pen for that too, because you said it. DNA, okay, and you can see that that's the size range we're working at, 2.5 nanometers. It's in that scale from 1 to 100 nanometers. Down here, some more relationships. That here, this thing, is actually a hair, okay? So hairs, if you didn't know, were between 50 and 100 microns in diameter. Okay, 50 and 100 microns. Now, if you could take that hair and put it on a deli slicer, a really, really good deli slicer, and slice it 100,000 times, okay, now you're down at the size of the nanoscale, down in the 100,000 times smaller than the width of a hair. Really, how far can you see with your, optically can you see? Anybody know? About a micron, about a micron. So you can't see with your eyes down to the nanoscale. But that here, does anybody know what this is right here? This thing, this chicken wire thing. Nanotube. Okay, does anybody know properties, anything about carbon nanotubes? Anybody know where it was, where it came from, where we discovered it, and how long it's been around? Well, some of the properties of nanotubes. It's 10 to, I've read different things, 10 to 100 times stronger than steel, harder than diamond. It's in the nanoscale size range. These are actually carbon atoms, basically. Okay, it's a sheet of graphene kind of rolled up, if you will. And it's been around forever, since fire, because it basically is in smoke from fire, basically. There's carbon nanotubes, and there's buckyballs or fullerenes in fire, basically. But we never knew it, because we weren't able to really look down at that size range. Remember, we couldn't see at that size range, so now we know that these things are there. That's one of the cool things. That's why one of the things of why we're leading into this revolution right now, because now we know things we didn't know before, or we've proven things that we theorized on before right now, utilizing some of the tool sets that we're using for nanotechnology. Okay? That's pretty cool. This carbon nanotube is a really cool thing, and we'll come back to that in a little bit here. So now I'm going to show you a video. It's one of my favorite videos. It's kind of cool, another relationship thing. Well, Fik, you don't have to watch this because you've watched it 1,000 times already. So, but hopefully the sound is not too loud.
How would you visualize just how small a nanometer really is? Well, first let's see how many people we can fit in this little car. Looks like about 8.
Now be ready for creepy noises. You're going to hear creepy noises.
Or, what if we could shrink people down so they were just about 8 inches tall? Then we'd be able to fit about 3,000 people inside of this car.
There's the creepy noises.
But get this, if we could shrink people down so they were just 1 nanometer big, 1/1000th of a meter, we could fit every single person on the face of the earth, all 6.5 billion men, women, and children inside this car. And not only that, we could fit them inside this car.
In fact, all the world's people would fit inside a car 10,000 times smaller than this little car.
It's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around how small we're working at right now. When you think about that, 10,000 times smaller than all the world's people, if they were nano-sized, if you caught what it was, could fit into that car. I'm not sure, currently there was a factual error in there because this was done a couple of years ago. Anybody know what catch the factual thing that was wrong in there? Nice. You said, I think I heard you first. All right, he said it first. All right, well, pass it to your friend. But that's amazing to me from a standpoint of, if they were nano-sized, people could fit, all the world's people, 7 billion people could fit inside that car. So that's the size range that we're working on. It doesn't do it justice when you say 10 to the -9th meters. It really isn't. To me, it doesn't. So, oops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to move to the next slide. Here we go. Let's try that. So, okay, you get it. It's really, really small, okay? So how did we get there? And why is it making this thing small so good? Well, this thing right here, anybody remember what these are? Yeah, you do. What were they? See, 1993 vintage bag phones, right? 1990. What else did they come with besides that phone right there? And what was in the suitcase? Battery, okay. And how much did that battery weigh? 10 pounds? Like carrying a cinder block around, right? Basically, with your phone, and that was your, I mean, and then, like, I was naive. I was working for Corning at that time, and one of the guys was the high-techy guy. He came and he got one of those, like, says, well, that's never going to catch on. That's how bright I am. Anyway, so, I mean, that was the technology, and that's not that long ago. That's 20 years ago. If you look back, think about where technology was 20 years ago. You know, I do some recruiting, and I use this same slide for the recruiting for students, and most students don't know anything about nanotechnology, and they kind of don't get exactly that evolution, but they look at that and they laugh. They laugh very, very loudly. Now, in 2004, when I first moved here, I said, that would be a good way of depicting this, of showing like the evolution of phones, and I said, I got my Verizon's phone, that was my free Verizon. So it wasn't top of the line at that time, because I always go for the free, get the free phone, 2-year contract, because I'm really cheap. So I wound up getting that, and I said, that's a pretty cool thing, and the battery's included in that one too. So that's kind of a pretty big evolution in that 11-year period, if you will. But think about today. My daughter has been bugging me for a while. Because I've been getting all along the free phones from Verizon, the free phones. I finally got a texting phone the last time, and then the smartphones came, and our contract ran out, and she says, Dad, I need to have a smartphone. I need a smartphone. And I'm like, well, you could spell smartphone A, because she was in school, or J-O-B. There's 2 ways to spell smartphone. So, and then I finally relented, and she didn't get A, because I really kind of wanted one now. I didn't really need one. And I said to myself, well, I don't really need it. I don't need it, but I'm going to get it. But I've had it for about, I don't know, 5 months or so. And I figured out that I really, really need it. I need it now. It's incredible, the technology that's in these phones. And how did we get, how we got to this from this 1993 till now. Anybody remember, this laptop here, or laptops like that, 1986 laptop? Look at the power of that baby. 7.16 megahertz, 640K RAM, 2 floppies, basically. 2 5.25-inch really floppy floppies. Remember the really floppy floppies? So, and those at that time were kind of cool. They were state of the art. I mean, I remember getting, moving from slide rule to calculator not too long before that. And then somebody from work was saying, we got these computers are coming out. And the computers I remember was the punch card you put in, then the Fortran programming, you put them in and they go, and then you made a mistake and you have to go back, and then that's crazy. So no longer like that. So in our lifetimes, think about how we've moved from there. So this more functionality per square unit area is what we were after. We wanted things to improve. Humans wanted that to happen. And what made us do that? I know you guys, a lot of you guys are physics or electronics or technology and stuff. Well, how did you get there? It was via the transistor, basically, which is the on-off switch, if you will, for electronics, basically. They had to get smaller and smaller. So the electrons going from on-off, from here to here, in relative sense, had to go from here to here. So it takes a long time to go from here to here back on that 8086 computer. And now you move it to the Galaxy S3, basically, and you're down in the nanometer size range. Those gate lengths on those transistors are there. So instead of having that functionality per square unit area, if you will, instead of having thousands of transistors on a chip, if you will, on a circuit, if you will, we have billions in the same piece of real estate today. So that enables us to go from that bag phone that we had there to these Galaxy S3s, or this isn't even the latest because I was too cheap to buy the Galaxy S4. So I'm still cheap. But anyway, I worked in manufacturing for 23 years. In order to understand what was going on and how to improve things, you really had to. I was a process engineer. I was a glass technologist. I had to look at what was going on and figure out what was happening. So now when you're down below things that you can't see, if you don't have the characterization devices to be able to look at things and understand things, and the tools to make the things at that scale, to be able to make them repeatedly, I don't want to be able to turn my computer on or press this button and things don't happen. That's kind of frustrating when that happens because things aren't made correctly. Well, in order for things to work on a 99.99999% percentile basis, you have to have all those transistors and all those circuits in the right place. So you had to develop the tools, and the electronics industry is responsible for this, for developing these tools basically and improving these tools. Like scanning electron microscopy has been around for quite a while. I mean, it's been around since I think the 40s, I think is what it is. Maybe somebody knows, somewhere around there. I mean, in the 70s when I was in school, basically the graduate students got into the room that was about half the size of this one that had the one scanning electron microscopes, and we just walked past it as undergraduates. We didn't even touch it. Now in our program in Pennsylvania, the students are on this. They get to operate it. Tomorrow morning, we're actually going to operate it from here, basically remotely. You're not just look at it, but operate it remotely. So that's kind of how technology has moved. But you're able to look from here tomorrow morning to look at nanoscale features down to the, what we talked about earlier, how small we're looking at. And that's because of the electronics industry drove us there. And there was discoveries of new types of tools, and these are only a couple that I'm highlighting here. And this is the atomic force microscope. Anybody know about atomic force microscopy? A little bit about it? Cool. Okay, I guess I can't make things up then because somebody knows. But actually, that's one of the tools. We have a couple of them in our lab. And how it works is, again, I'm using ancient words, but like a phonograph needle, basically going across. If you look at the center picture right here, okay, there's the needle of a phonograph, if you will, but it's not really a phonograph. It's basically a cantilever tip. There's a tip on the end of it here, and that tip is at the nanoscale, and it rasters back and forth across the surface, right? And actually goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you define where it goes, and you could do that remotely also. And basically, it has a laser that comes in and comes back out, goes to a detector, and then it reads that. And this is in the simplest form. Basically, it actually takes that reading that you're getting off there, and then tells you and projects an image on a computer screen, translates it to a computer screen image. So in 1986, the folks at IBM won the Nobel Prize for this. This is actually not, I'm from Pennsylvania, but they're not Hershey Kisses. They're actually xenon atoms, okay, that are on a near absolute zero nickel surface. And they basically, what they did is they moved one atom at a time and put it in place and spelled out IBM. Okay, now nobody had ever done that before, obviously, so that's why they won the Nobel Prize, and they saw how they're actually manipulating atoms. So, and then they went back after they moved them in with force. They moved them with force. Then they went out and actually characterized it and said, yep, we got it. We got the IBM. And it's not something you're going to do, but it's something as proof of concept that it can be done, and you can manipulate things at that scale and size range. Big, big, big deal. So, talked about size, talked about how we got to where we are. And those characterization devices have enabled us to understand other things that are going on. I'm going to show you some examples of that in a couple of minutes, and how we've moved from just electronics, not just electronics, electronics is huge, but into many different areas that nanotechnology revolution is impacting. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the other part of that definition, which is the novel properties. So, novel properties. Well, this is no big deal for the science people in this room, okay? The block on the left there is the same volume as those 27 blocks on the right, right? Which one has the larger surface area? On the right, okay, the one on the right. I knew you guys would get at that. It has a lot more surface area. So it has a lot more surface area, even at the microscale. It has a lot more chemical reactivity, right? So that's one of the features of the nanoscale is that, well, it's not just, now you're not only at the micron scale, 10 microns in size, or the actual 16,200 micrometers squared. Basically now think about the nanometer size and how much more surface area. If you took that same cube and then broke it into nanoscale, if you could reliably and repeatably make those, fabricate those, or from bottom-up nanotechnology or top-down nanotechnology, and make those repeatedly of the same size. Think about the chemical reactivity you would have there. And I'm going to give you some examples of how we're utilizing that today in a little bit too, that higher chemical reactivity and the ability to repeat that, do it repeatedly. That's just one. We're at the size range of wavelengths of light, Okay, we're down in the wavelengths of light, basically. And so you're able to manipulate light. You guys have heard of photonics and lasers and all those things that we talked about there. There's lots of things going on with light. There's national centers just devoted to photonics, basically, technology, and laser technology, basically. And we're all working at the nanoscale. And it's also working on the optical properties at that scale and manipulating optical properties at the nanoscale. And I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. I'll give you some examples also of how at the nanoscale we're interacting with biological systems. You saw the DNA, the size range that we're working in. We're at the size range of viruses, way bigger, way smaller than bacteria, basically. We're working in that size range, and there's a lot of stuff going on in biotechnology and medicine and pharmaceuticals and so on that are happening at the nanoscale. We can take those properties and we can actually tailor them and basically come up with unique properties. So I'll show you a couple of examples here. Color of gold at the macro scale is gold. Thank you very much. Very good answer. Gold. If we cut it in half, what color would it be? Gold. If you cut it in half again, what would those 4 blocks be? Gold. If you got down to the nanoscale, what color would it be? Would it? There you go. Okay, so actually, you're down at the size range now. These are colloidal gold solutions of gold. These down here on the lower right-hand side. Okay, they are all different sizes of nanoparticles, if you will. Okay, and imagine that the only difference between these are the size of the nanoparticles. Okay, they're not that small. This is just a relative thing here. But from a standpoint of now you're at 10 nanometers in diameter, 20 nanometers, 40 nanometers, 80 nanometers, 160 nanometers, if you will. Basically imagine that now you've got those nanometers basically acting like a tuned circuit, if you will. Okay? And so those nanometers, those nanoparticles, now instead of at discrete points, they give off a different color. Okay? Well, that's kind of interesting. Gold is no longer gold at the nanoscale. That's pretty cool when you think about that. So what does that mean, really? Okay, that's kind of a cool thing. But let me give you a couple of examples of manipulating at the nanoscale. These are not just gold. These are gold, silver, and they're different shapes and sizes, if you will. Gold and silver shapes and different shapes and sizes. So if you look at it here, here's the different sizes. They range from 12, they're colloidal gold solutions. They range from 12 to 200 nanometers, okay? So look at the different vibrant colors that you can get through those different solutions. Chemistry, okay? These are the 3 on the right are silver, the 2 in the middle are gold, and the 2 on the left are silver again. And then shape. Some of them are spheres, some of them are platelets. Well, think about the different combinations and permutations of all that you could do, basically, and think of all the different colors you could make, or just in colors, color technology. But that's not kind of the biggest thing for me. It's the properties also change. All the properties change at the nanoscale, not just the optical properties, if you will. So the melting point of gold at the macro scale, that block of gold that we saw earlier, is 1337 degrees Kelvin, right? Well, no, when you get down to the nanoscale, no more. Basically, all these are different size nanoparticles, and they're on a continuum here, and you can see that you could predict at 900 nanometers. At 3 nanometers in size, it's going to be about 900 degrees, the melting point. So think about that. You now have different melting points at different points. So you have different melting points. You also have different optical properties. You also have different electrical properties. All of them change as you get down to the nanoscale. So the periodic table that we thought about before, that we knew everything about, well, that's very different today. And basically, gold behaves differently. Each element on the periodic table can give us new capabilities at the nanoscale. For instance, carbon. We talked about this carbon nanotubes earlier. The carbon nanotubes that we didn't know about. And the only reason we know about them is because of those tools that we talked about earlier, the scanning electron microscopes and the the improved scanning electron microscopes and the scanning probe microscopes and other tools that work at that nano scale. And then we discovered that they were there, and then somebody said, wonder what they do. I wonder how strong they are. You know, some researcher took it and said, let's look at this stuff. Let's figure out what we can do with it. Now there's applications for nanotubes. Like, I don't have it with me. I'm ready to reach for it because I always have it with me. A baseball bat, the little baseball bats that have basically in the matrix, basically carbon nanotubes, or tennis rackets, or automobiles, or you name it. Anything you want to make stronger and lighter weight, if you will, strong and lightweight. Think of it as nanoscale rebar. This stuff, putting it into a matrix and making it stronger. So you know what rebar does in concrete? Well, this is what this does at the nanoscale. And there's people that make these by the truckload, as my boss likes to say, and they can ship it to your house. You can go on the internet and buy carbon nanotubes and get them shipped to your house, and I don't know what you use them for, but you can actually buy nanotubes for research or whatever. Buckyballs, that's that other allotrope of carbon at the nanoscale that was discovered in fire, and now we're making them in reactors basically, and figuring out how they're looking at applications for this, and a lot of them are in the medical field, basically. So the coolest thing to me about these new property is, to me, the periodic table is now multidimensional, if you will. Instead of being two-dimensional, you think about it, these are out here, we know these properties at the macro scale, but at 10 nanometers, there's a different properties. At 20 nanometers, there's different properties. At 100 nanometers, there's different properties. Well, think about the possibilities that are out there, this revolution that's happening right now, and these discoveries that are happening because of just those things. So, you guys get it? Some of the novel properties and stuff? I mean, I'm just touching the subject because we don't have all night. He really didn't want me to go to 11:30, but we could go longer. So I'm going to give you some impacts and forecasts and give you some cool stuff, show you some cool stuff that's going on in nanotechnology. So why should I consider teaching more to my classroom about nanotechnology? Is nanotechnology a trend or just a fad? Or will there be jobs in industry who get training in nanotechnology? What do you guys think? Is nanotechnology a real trend or just a fad? It's not just a trend, it's a trend basically, right? Okay. And will there be jobs? And the answer is absolutely, and I'll show you some examples of how people are looking at it from a Pennsylvania standpoint and around the country, if you will. So that NNI predicted way back when, this is in like early 2000s, that the products that incorporate nanotechnology will increase by 100 times over 2 decades. Basically, that's from 2000 to 2020. And it would account for about, by 2020, for about 5% of the gross domestic product of the world, basically, or about $3 trillion. And this is just a matrix or a collage of some of the areas where things are impacted. We're going to go into a couple here. But before we do that, I want to give you that some people will say nanotechnology is nothing new. It's been around forever. And that is absolutely true. Nanotechnology has been around forever. People have been utilizing nanotechnology for many, many centuries, millennia basically, but they really didn't know. That's the difference, is they didn't know they were using it or how they were using it or how to manipulate it as effectively as we can today. So for instance, this here, can anybody guess what this is? Now I'm going to quiz you and see who was paying attention. It's a scanning electron micrograph basically of something that's between 50 and 100 microns. Nope. Between 50 and 100 microns. Who remembers what was between 50 and 100 microns that was on that one chart? A hair. It was a hair, absolutely. You were going to get another one. If I had my refrigerator clips with me, you'd get one of those for that one. We might have to send them one. But what that is a hair, okay? But it's not just those are graphs of hair. And look at the top ones here. But what this is a formula that was created in Greece, called Grecian formula today. I did not know this until I just found this out like about a year or so ago. The Grecian formula is really a nanotechnology development. Basically, they're lead acetate crystals, basically, or nanoparticles actually, are the actors that get the hair back to its natural color. And actually, that's penetration over time, basically, of the lead acetate, basically, into the crystals. And it's lead, by the way. You're putting lead on your hair if you're using this stuff. I don't know about that. When I worked I got to tell you a quick side story. I worked at Corning. I was a department head, and we had lead in our glass that we were making, and we also had lead. Had to test for lead and figure out what was going on. Make sure that the environment was safe, and then this one guy kept coming up high, and we had to keep moving him out. And I just realized this recently as to what was going on. This guy had black hair, and he was about 65 years old. So he was probably using this, and we could never figure out why his lead readings kept elevated. So I'm sure this stuff is supposed to be safe, but for him it was getting into his system. This is another one here. This is the Cathedral at Notre Dame here, picture of the Cathedral at Notre Dame. And that picture actually is, that stained glass is still as vibrant today as when it was created centuries ago. And they discovered not too long ago that the key ingredient in the colors that are in there are gold and silver nanoparticles. Basically, through these characterization devices, they figured out, oh, it's gold and silver nanoparticles that make that work. This is the Lycurgus cup, which is a kind of cool, it has a cool attribute that in reflected light it appears green, and in transmitted light it appears red. And the key attribute of that, they didn't know what made that happen, or what the key thing there was, that these gold and silver nanoparticles that were embedded into the glass. Now, do you think the people that made these glasses and the Grecian formula and that kind of stuff knew they were actually doing nanotechnology? No. They had a formula and said, this is the way we make this glass. We grind up this material, and they might know it's gold or might not, but they might know it's silver and they might not. And they grind it up for so long, and they get this size, and they put it into the glass, and now they make the vibrant red or the green or the blue or whatever they're trying to make. I'm not sure if this was an accident or it just happened, but somehow they came up with this attribute. This is one that's actually even more recent. This is 2006. Anybody hear of Damascus steel? Right? No, you've never heard of Damascus steel? Anybody know any properties of that? At dinner we were talking about weapons, right? About
and swords.
Right, and basically, they had the sword that basically was the strongest one and the sharpest one. So it won a lot of battles for them, basically, because they had the best weaponry, if you will. And one of the key attributes, and they had it. My understanding is they have been trying to replicate this steel and have not been able to replicate this same strength of steel that they have from the original things that were made way back. I don't know exactly when the Damascus steel was, but in the Middle Ages. But one of the things through the analysis, they figured out that one of the key features of it were nanotubes and nanowires that were embedded in the steel that made it so strong and so lightweight. So they actually were making those lightweight bats, basically nanotubes, way back when, through the processing that they utilized to make this steel. So nanotechnology has been around forever. So, quiz for you. Is there any nanotechnology in this picture? Yes? No? Now, the giveaway is that this is a nanotechnology presentation. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I got this picture a couple years ago, actually in like 2009 at a conference I was going to, and I thought it was really cool. And I've seen others like it. There's other ones that look like it, and there's some more up to date. But I really like this one that just kind of shows how much nanotechnology is in that picture. And it goes from your sunscreen, basically, that you're utilizing, or your cosmetics, where sunscreen used to be the white zinc stuff that goes on your nose and was, it did protect you, but it was kind of ugly to look at, but it did protect you from the sun. Now you have the nanoparticle ones that basically you can't see it. It's invisible. Lots of cosmetics use nanotechnology. Artificial lenses use nanotechnology. Biocompatible materials for bone replacements and implants and so on. I had a person who came from our advisory board from Stryker Orthopedic. He actually was my roommate in college. He's working there, and they're working on nano coatings. You're talking about coatings earlier. to make them more wear resistant so that they're going to last longer. So when I get my artificial knee that I need, it'll last hopefully the rest of my life, except have to go, so I don't have to go in for a new one after 10 years or whatever it is, or whatever the useful life of those are. And lots of biocompatible materials are being used for things like stents and things like that, or that are actually delivering drugs from the stent for anticoagulants coming right out of the stents. Glasses and coatings, you name it, there's all kinds of things. Talked about that nanotubes, the bike frames. You guys know those very lightweight racing bikes and things like that that are out there, or any kind of material like that that you're looking for lightweight. Well, they utilize nanotubes, carbon nanotubes in them to make them like that. So how about here? Any nanotechnology in this room? Yes? Should be? Well, we talked about some. Everybody in this room probably has a phone within the distance. There's laser pointers. There's the projector. There's what else have we got? Oh, there's all kinds of products on the front shelf that we'll talk about in a couple minutes too. All kinds of different things are in this room, and more than you know. But first, I'm going to show you a couple of cute YouTubes here that actually kind of show this. And one of the things I did is grab these, and I'll tell you the commonality afterwards.
This animation depicts keystone nanotechnology that treats cancer more effectively than current therapies. Keystone Nano is building on technology developed at Penn State and the Penn State Hershey Medical College. Keystone Nano assembles nanoparticles containing a therapeutic drug. With trillions of particles per ounce, an IV solution packs a big punch. The nanoparticles circulate in the bloodstream. Their structure and size, which is much smaller than a blood cell, allows them to travel in the body longer than free drugs. To support growth, tumors create blood vessels to supply nutrients. But typically the vessels created by tumors are poorly constructed and provide small gaps to access the tumor. Particles slip into cells and selectively kill tumor cells and shrink tumors. More information is available at KeystoneNano.com.
So this is one small company that's got, I don't know, I think they just got a $5 million grant to go to the next phase of the approvals, basically, for drug treatment, basically. So it's very promising. They use these nanoshells, calcium phosphate nanoshells, and they're actually a discovery of the material science department in conjunction with the biology department in conjunction with Hershey Medical Center. So that's what nanotechnology is bringing all these different sciences together to go and solve problems, and they're working at that nano size range. Any hunters here in Illinois? Okay, you're a hunter. Okay, so you're going to appreciate this.
Glory in the inconspicuous confines of this Sky Gear Smart Silver ground pound line. It's lightweight, it's durable, and the Smart Silver technology built into the camo shell not only hides you effectively among the brush and foliage, it helps contain odor too.
So is containing odor important in hunting? Right? Okay, so the reason I showed this is because I showed this in my outreach in Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of hunters in the audience that I'm talking to, and we have a product. Wafik saw this when he was in Pennsylvania. We do these little product things, and it's a way of showing kind of outreach and showing people like what nanotechnology is, and I'll pass these around. But these are silver socks, basically. Remember that we talked about that high chemical reactivity when you get down to the nanoscale? Well, silver is naturally antimicrobial and antibiotic, basically, at the macro scale. You've seen, anybody know about burn, anybody worked in hospitals or anything like that? They've been using silver for years and years, basically, to coat, basically, to wrap wounds and so on. And they use silver on bandages now. There's silver bandages and things. Well, these have a small amount of silver, like 0.03%, basically silver. 0.03% silver in here. And basically these were developed for the military, basically, so that, people who are in military, basically you don't want to have a lot of different, you don't want to have 20 pairs of socks. You want to have 2 pairs of socks because you're carrying your stuff with you. Or your shirts or whatever it might be, you want to have very high quality stuff. Well, this was developed for the military basically, and now it's actually consumer. And I tell people, and it's true, that I have sock liners on right now with silver nanotechnology in it, and my family loves me a lot more when I get home and take my shoes off, and it really does work. By the way, I don't get a cut on any of these products here. You can pass those around there. And so now you actually have your own too. I went to the Walmart right down the road here, and I picked these up today. And it's kind of cool because I knew that copper was also antimicrobial and antibacterial, and this one is a copper nanoparticles are in this particular, it says in there somewhere, nanoglide, Cu, I guess 29 is the atomic number of copper, and so that is actually now your property, Wafiq.
You got that from Walmart?
I got that from Walmart in the hunting.
How much are they?
Those were, I don't know, I have the receipts in here.
A lot more there.
They were like $9 or something like that, but there were some that were actually cheaper than that. But I wanted to get him high quality stuff. But the other ones are not. There's not much of a price difference between this. Think about it. You're putting 0.03% silver in it versus the other. But what I would submit, if you don't have antimicrobial and antibacterial stuff, and you're going to stink, basically, I think in the future everybody's going to have, all the products are going to have it in it, have some type of antimicrobial and antibacterial agent in there, because people are going to demand it when they know more about it. So here's another one here.
At Shell, we believe the world needs a broader mix of energies, which is why we are supplying.
Okay, this is never wet, super hydrophobic fabric system. This particular bottle, we also make a paint that paints on surfaces. But with this product, you can spray it on any clothing, and it will make your clothing super hydrophobic. Water and heavy oils will just shoot off of it. Chocolates, ketchup, mustard, all of that sort of thing. Hydrophobic means that a surface is water resistant. Super hydrophobic means that the water will shoot off of a surface, won't even sit there. When you plunge this in the toilet and pull out, it remains dry. And with it staying dry, it doesn't have any bacteria on it. We made the outside of this very hydrophobic, and the center of it is untreated glass, which is hydrophilic. In other words, the center of the glass wants to attract water. The outside of the glass wants to repel water. So when we pour water in the center, it goes to the borders that we created with the hydrophobic surface, and it stops the water.
Okay, and one more little video for you. Now, usually it's not yogurt. Okay, so there's also this energy video, which I'm going to show you one more. I am going to show you one more. Oh, go back to here. Clicked on the wrong thing. I'm clicking on the wrong area somewhere. What'd I do? Oh, that here, yeah, maybe. That's what it was. You're right, thank you. Now, you would really never do this, but it's proof of concept. It says, we do not recommend using any beverages other than water with the filters as it prepares the performance, but it's showing that it's, okay, it can filter out Coke and make it into water. So can it filter out bacteria? Absolutely. Okay, think about the implications of that. And these are these are not, you know, the Brita filters. These are nanoscale filters, basically filtering out. My son lives in Juarez, Mexico, Ciudad Juarez, and he's going to be moving to third world countries more likely. He's in the Foreign Service. So I bought him some of these water bottles for he and his wife to, and then if they have grandchildren, I'll buy them for them too, so they don't have to have problems in the future. But think about the implications of that, of helping to get for clean water and so on, and filtering systems and so on. Somebody had a question?
I was thinking, further research, you could go filter the turns water into wine.
I kind of like that. Oh, that could go with dessert. We could have that with dessert, absolutely. Oh, that's right, we don't have dessert. One of the cool things about this thing is, and I use it for my outreach for the program I'm going to describe in a second, is that these are all Pennsylvania companies. These are all Pennsylvania companies, local to Pennsylvania, that have evolved into nanotechnology. And you can see the diversity of the areas that they're working. These are just products. They're not just explaining the processes. So there are people that are improving, and part of it, when I was a process engineer, I had to improve the efficiencies of what was going on. And well, that means tooling. You have to improve the tooling and make sure that tooling is going to last later or be better, or whatever it might be. So think of the nano applications for that. These are end product type things. So there's nanotechnology all along the product stream, basically, of all these products. But these are actual companies. And I would, the one here that actually makes the silver I sent around actually makes silver nanoparticles, and they sell them for this. But they also sell them to hospitals, because hospitals now have to insurance companies are pushing back on hospitals for the hospital-borne infections that are there. So now there's a regulation, and they're saying, okay, well, if we can prove that that came from the hospital, insurance companies not paying, hospitals got to pay for that staph infection or whatever it might be. Well, now the hospitals, not that they weren't before, trying to do as much as possible to prevent that from happening. Well, now they're making their materials and their antimicrobial and antibacterial as much as possible. They're converting. So there's a whole hospital supply chain that they're actually selling these things to. This product here, that plunger, basically, they made these. I can't imagine. This company is actually a 1940s company. It's called Ross Technologies. It's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they actually make they make all kinds of products, but they make like things like pallet racks. They made some steel. They had some government contracts and things like that, and they wound up. The government said, well, we would love to have some super hydrophobic materials. I don't know what for. I don't know if it was for ships, or it was for tanks, or it was for whatever it might be, or whatever. We'd love to have super hydrophobic materials. Well, they went out and bought the technology, basically, and then they're working on the government stuff, and they said, well, there's consumer applications for this stuff. They figured out there's consumer applications. And then, I don't know, they made their own plunger for a while, and they were making their own plunger, and they actually, I don't know where that came from. There must have been a brainstorming session, and somebody had a bad weekend at home, around the house, and decided, how about plungers? And I know they did bedpans for a while and stuff like that. Well, then Rubbermaid then bought the technology from them, or they licensed the technology, and now I bought this for, you can buy this down the road, $7.99 at Home Depot if you want to, in Mattoon. Right down. Is that how I say it? Mattoon? Yeah. Mattoon, $7.99. It's a little more expensive than the other plunger, but I think it's worth it. I have them at home now. And then this is that basically that Rust-Oleum, that Never Wet, that spray that he was talking about. And actually, I bought some of this to coat some stuff at home. And actually, I asked the guy, talk to Dale or Kathy at Home Depot, and they said it's flying off the shelves. It's actually on the end cap, on aisle 10, right in the front. And actually, this just came out like 3 months ago, and and this is from that small company in Pennsylvania that licensed it to Rust-Oleum. And now this, now they're utilizing it's a primer that you have to prime, and then you have to spray that on. So that's kind of I think that's a nice. Those are some nice stories there. This is these are bare paint, basically, and they call it NanoGuard technology, and basically it's more resistant, longer lasting. It's a coating, basically. It's got antimicrobial and antibacterial stuff in here, and there's some literature on that here too. So I think you get the point, basically, that there is stuff going on, and there is a revolution going on in nanotechnology. These are just end products and just a couple that I'm showing here. So really it is impacting us, nanotechnology. This is a cool website that you could go to that was funded by the Woodrow Wilson Center Pew Charitable Trust, nanotechproject.org. And we encourage our students to go to this and actually do some research, and some of the people that are going to be coming to our program to get an idea of what's going on. You can actually search on, I actually searched on toilet bowl to see if there was something there that I could put in this picture here and say, is there something in that inventory? You know what? It's not there. Uh-oh. I don't know. I'm not going to go searching for it. But I searched on toilet bowl, and basically that is the surface on that toilet bowl. It is antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's going to stay more clean and so on. So who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want a toilet bowl that does that? So anyway. Okay, so where is nanotechnology used today? Oops. Let's keep going. Where is nanotechnology used today? Well, we talked about it earlier, in the semiconductor processing, basically. It's used in the electronics industry, obviously, right? It's used in pharmaceuticals. You saw the drug delivery there, and there are products on the market. Search that inventory for medical technology, cancer research, and so on like that. There are tons of products right now out there that are utilizing nanotechnology to cure diseases. Primarily, a lot of them are in cancer research. And if there's, I would say that almost every technology right now that is going, we're working on a cancer research or something, is using some form of nanotechnology. I don't know if you've heard about like these gold nanoshells where they put in, and then they use a radiation basically, or IR basically, to try and burn out the cancers. There's different types of technology for different types of cancers going on and different types of research. Pharmaceuticals, colloidal chemistry, polymer science, material science, the paint that we're going around here, plus many other things, medical and biotechnology. And the only reason there's not more areas on this slide is because I ran out of room. Basically, you could pick just about any technology. They're working in nanotechnology right now. So the NNI vision, I showed this earlier, is that revolution. Here's some more predictions from the NNI, or some more facts. This is government investment, basically, NNI expenditures in nanotechnology, and basically just showing the curve. Now, is that a typical curve for this day and age for different technologies? No. Some great, as you probably are aware of, you probably got many programs that are awesome programs that you know about have been cut, zero funded, and they really should keep going, but the government still keeps putting its chips in nanotechnology because it's a winning technology. You need to basically invest in nanotechnology. The government thinks so, and they are doing it. Demand for skilled workers. It's a forecast, but they say they're going to need 2 million by 2020. We got a long way to go because not a lot of people have been trained in nanotechnology, if you will. And many of those, remember, a lot of this is for 2-year degrees, and a lot of the jobs can be filled with 2 years degrees, and we filled that. And there's tons of programs growing in the country. We were the first program in nanotechnology in the country, basically. And the reason we started is because industry in Pennsylvania came to my boss, Dr. Stephen Fonash, and said he was the head of the nanofabrication and nanocharacterization facility, and they said, we need workers, right? We need workers who are trained, and this is in the late 90s, and there was a kind of a boom going on at that point, and so we just can't find trained workers we need technicians. So he said, well, we can do that. So he went and he's a researcher. He's a researcher of a researchers, basically, and he decided, well, I'm the head of this nanofab. We'll work with community colleges. So he started working with community colleges to train technicians, and then our program was born from that. So from a standpoint of what are the goals of this NNI, obviously R&D, advanced R&D. Well, R&D is great, but it has to pay something back. You got to make products, basically, to feed the economy. So that's what this is all about, translating it into engineering and technology and making new products. And then there's the workforce. You guys are responsible for training the workforce out there and getting getting us trained workforce and developing the infrastructure to be able to do this. The facilities at Penn State, not a lot, but some of that money that you're showing that investment is going into these facilities that have nanofabrication facilities and clean rooms and characterization areas that can actually do this stuff, basically. And most of them are user facilities where local industry or national industry can come in and use the facilities to facilitate their development. Because these tools are so expensive, not each company can go and buy this and afford to do that. So having user facilities to make that happen is a very wise investment by the government from a standpoint of making that happen. So the companies or researchers utilize these facilities on a pay for hour basis or pay per day. And obviously, a very key thing is that they want this done responsibly, so we don't have some kind of bad result 20 years down the road or 30 years down the road for our children or our grandchildren. So industries that drive demand, basically you name it, where will the demand come from or where is the demand right now? And we named a bunch of them already, but these are some of the ones that just come to mind. And we do this for the students to let them know that even if you're going to be in sales and marketing or business or you're going to be in basically in any kind of field, you really should get some nano literacy and get an understanding of what's going on in this particular field, and we encourage students to do that. So now I'm going to talk very briefly, because we're just about out of time, basically, about our network, and I do want to cover this briefly. Can you guys hang on for a couple minutes, or have another donut or cookie, or if you want to. I'm not going to let you forget about that. So basically, I told you earlier that what NAC is, the NAC network is. And this graphic here is actually the states in the union that have, the ones in green, that have 2-year degree programs in nano or micro technology and/or micro technology. So really it's nano, but and Puerto Rico is one of them. And back in 1998, there would have been one, Pennsylvania, and then in 2003 there would have been 2. Us and Dakota County Technical College up in Minnesota basically started a program there. Deb Newberry started one. But now we have our mission. We've been in NSF. We were an NSF regional center starting in 2001 and became a national center in 2008. So we've been working on a regional basis, and our region was Pennsylvania until 2008, and then on a national scale since then. And our mission is basically to enable nanotechnology at 2-year community and technical colleges and 4-year universities in partnership with community and technical colleges. So when Wafiq came, he says, I'm going to work with community and technical colleges and they're trying to help to create some kind of workforce development here. And that's why we funded him to come. And we fund educators to come who are willing to do that, or institutions that are willing to kind of create this nano workforce. And this is a graphic of where our Pennsylvania students come from. And that's all of Pennsylvania. And these are the baccalaureate and associate level programs that we feed within Pennsylvania. So what our approach across the country is to build those partnerships that I just talked about between or among community colleges and universities, educate for a wide spectrum of industries, not for that one that's right next door to you, but because that one that's right next door to you might decide that it's cheaper to go not next door into the next county, the next state, or another country, basically. So you want that skilled workforce to have a foundational understanding and have something in their educational tool set that can be very valuable to them to move from industry to industry as needed. And basically to give them that broad education. And we want to enable nanotechnology delivery at community and technical colleges all across the country. And we're meeting tomorrow with some community colleges in this area. Right? So there's a report up there on us. This report is there. It talks about, this is a report to the president, what is that, a year and a half ago, basically about Penn State. It's a report on the nanotechnology initiative. And one of the things is they're really supportive of what we are doing, these partnership approach, because the program delivery is very expensive. but it's very efficient because we're utilizing those assets in one location as opposed to all the different locations across the state of Pennsylvania. And we're encouraging those partnerships to develop so that if you have this tool and then somebody else down the road has a different tool, rather than you both having that tool and investing in that tool, although you'd love to have it, it would be great to have it, but if you think about it of utilization of assets, it really doesn't make all that much sense from a standpoint of the taxpayers' money. It makes more sense to be able to partner and figure out a way to make that happen and make that what's in it for me for both of those institutions or all those institutions. So these are the partnerships that we've helped to form over the years. Talked about Minnesota. There's a partnership in Puerto Rico going on. We're going down there like next month, and we're actually going to be working with all the educators across Puerto Rico and talking about how we can integrate more community colleges into that. In Texas, there's a University of Texas and Northwest Vista College going on in San Antonio. In Seattle, in Pennsylvania, I call that the partnership on steroids because we have 52 different degree programs feeding our program. And then in Albany, New York, in the northeast region of New York there. In Arizona, they're in the process. They're almost got the program up and running with the University of Arizona, ASU, I'm sorry, as well as the Maricopa system, which has 250,000 students there. And then in right next door in Indiana, Ivy Tech and Notre Dame are partnered to deliver nanotechnology education. So where did it come from? It's the courses that we have at Penn State. Students come from all across the state for 6 courses or 18 credits. The credits, the state is investing basically in that because they only pay their homeschool tuition. And I said the cost of the program is here. They pay their homeschool community college tuition to come to Penn State, and basically the state is making up the difference. Well, the state is not doing that because they're just nice guys. They're doing it because they're investing in those workers so that they can improve the industry within Pennsylvania. We've had 774 students complete this capstone semester as of this past summer. We had 36 this past summer. And it's a central facility model, that, as I mentioned. So this is kind of a graphic of how it works. The students come from these programs across the state, both baccalaureate as well as associate level programs, come to the hands-on semester for one semester, either this spring or summer, and then they go into industry or move on to academia. We've had students that have gone on for baccalaureates, masters, PhDs. It's been in existence long enough for that to happen. We used to have a local advisory board for Pennsylvania, and we now have a national advisory board. And if you look at those companies, they're very small companies to multinational companies, and you name an industry sector, we try to represent them so that we get input from various industry sectors, not just one, we get them from all. And sometimes we have to say, we can't go into the detail you want to do for your particular thing, you're going to have to do that training here. We'll touch on that subject, but we can't do everything you want us to do, and we can't buy that piece of equipment because it's not going to service the rest of the industries that we service. This is the diversity of the program, just a graphic of that. It started in electronics, just like that we talked about earlier, and that's where it was back in 2001, and this is how it's grown over the years. These are the 52 different degree programs, and this is where they are basically, and what feeds our capstone semester from these degree programs across the state. Those programs the courses are cross-listed on the Penn State books, Engineering Science, which is our home department, as well as the books of all the feeder institutions. So I talked about this. We want to create a versatile workforce. This is the skill set, basically, that we exit with. I have some handouts of that up there. And interesting, we brought this to our board, and there were some naysayers that said, oh man, you can't teach that within a semester. And it says, yes, we can. We've been doing it. And the key feature of our capstone is that we try to do as much as possible hands-on. They spend half their time in lecture, half their time hands-on. Half their time every day, half their time in lecture, half their time in hands-on. And so they really get it. And we also we put them in teams so they work on developing their professional skills. I said I worked in industry for 23 years. I've had a lot of people who are really, 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 really strong techies, really, really strong techies, but couldn't talk to the person next to them. Well, they were limited. You know, they basically couldn't really do what I needed them to do for their project. They basically couldn't grow. They could do one particular thing. So we try to develop their professional skills throughout this also. And these are some of the companies that have hired our students for micro nanotechnology jobs. Notice I'm not calling them micro nanotechnology companies because most companies do not classify themselves as micro nanotechnology companies. They're chemical companies, or they're semiconductor, or they're biotechnology companies, they're whatever, but they're utilizing nanotechnology, as we saw earlier, to improve their processes. And these are students that have said, we are utilizing the skill sets that we took from your capstone semester. I think that's a pretty impressive thing. And if you look at these, again, very small to very large, and you name an industry sector, that's where these students are getting employed. And from a standpoint of, if you went out and looked on monster.com for nanotechnology or nanotechnician or nanotechnologist or whatever, you probably wouldn't get many hits. You get hits on standard job titles, but the skill set that I showed earlier is what they're looking for. So that's what we have the students do, is sell themselves on the skill set. And we tell them, that's going to set you apart. You have it, you don't have it. You're probably going to get the job, and you're going to be able to further that company or organization. And I'm not going to go through these, but these are just some of the feedback that we've got. Feedback from students, feedback from our customers, who are the industries, basically saying that they're, they reduce in-house training time, they hit the ground running. And most of them say we wouldn't have even been training these people in these particular areas, but they're contributing to the company right away. One company here, Plextronics, I'll tell you one quick story and then we'll end, is that they said they came to an advisory board when I first started, when I just got to NANO. I didn't have the technology. I couldn't spell technology yet. But they came to the advisory board and meeting because my boss convinced one of their CTO to come, and he looked at our skill set and he said, "Really, you can do that?" I said, "Yeah, well, I doubt it, but well, we'll try to hire, look at some of your graduates." And so, or bring him in for an interview. Brought him in for an interview, decided to hire one. It was a technician. And it was a very small company making organic LEDs, and they said, he said, we really only hire PhDs. And then they were sitting around the table on his orientation day, the legend says, and the PhDs were standing around the table going, I don't know how we're going to solve this problem, yada, yada, yada. And this guy's fresh out of the capstone semester and said, well, what about this? Orientation day, and the whole 10 faces looked at him. The bottom line now is the company's got about 100 people, and they got about 25 of our graduates are working there. So they're very valuable contributors. And when they come back into our, they came back 2 years later, they said, now we have our PhDs working at the right level. They're not actually the ones operating the machines because we have people that can do that or doing the forming process. I'm not going to show that video. You want to go to nanoforme.org. Those of you who have pens can actually look at your pen and see that the Nano4Me is on there. Those of you who want pens can grab a pen on the way out because you've been great. And that's basically what I tried to do for you today, is basically tell you what nanotechnology was, why you should care, and a little snippet of where you can find it. I'll tell you more tomorrow, and we'll also do a remote access session tomorrow. So that's it.
Any questions?
Well,
Yes?
well, you did a magnificent job in spite of not having dessert, but
Yeah, man, I'm hungry.
is this only in the United States? Or
Oh no, it's worldwide. It's where that square that was there. That picture was taken in Germany, basically, and there is you could probably go to a nano conference across the country every day if you wanted to. There's I don't remember which country, but they actually converted their whole K-12 science and technology into kind of nano-based, wrapped it around nanotechnology. I can't remember what it is right now, but they actually took it and said, so they're going to be, there's a lot more people around the world than us, and they're going to be eating our lunch if we don't get people basically trained in science and technology. We really need to get people, I'm passionate about that. We need to get people in engineering, science, and technology. I worked in manufacturing for 23 years, and I'm not working in manufacturing anymore, only because it left the country and improved the technology and so on. I would have stayed, but because I liked it. But from a standpoint of we got to get people interested in it, and we got to get people in science and technology and working in that field. So,
Any other questions or comments?
yes.
Just a second, so
You had a suspension or something of gold that was 20 nanometers or 40 nanometers?
Yeah, I don't know the exact. Don't have to quote me on the exact number. Yeah.
Does it matter what the material is? If it's a 20 nanometer size particle, Does it give
Well,
the
no,
same
it doesn't.
color?
It does matter the material.
So silver and gold would be
Silver and
look
gold
different.
would work, and they'd be different at 20 nanometers. Yeah, silver and gold would be different at 20 nanometers.
They just wouldn't be gold and silver. They'd be
Right.
some other
They would
color.
be gold and silver, but they would be some kind of another allotrope, if you will, or some kind of, different level of the periodic table.
So it's not just light interference with the size
No.
of the particle. It's about the material also.
Yeah, it's about the material too. Yep. It's not just, it's always going to be blue if it's 20. If it's gold, silver, magnesium, whatever it might be, it's all going to be, it's going to be different colors. Yes. So I think that's really cool. So
Any
yeah.
other questions? Yes.
Yeah.
When you meet with the community college representatives tomorrow, if I
Yes.
understood you, do you have an outline of what should be included in a curriculum for an associate's degree?
Yeah.
What kind of courses would they be offering?
I have the courses that we take basically that basically are the there's from a standpoint of you're talking about feeding into that that semester, if you will, because there are different philosophies. There are philosophies to integrate nanotechnology into science curriculum, science and technology curriculum, and I totally advocate that. That if you have a science and technology curriculum and you've been teaching it the same way for years, it's time to stop and start integrating nanotechnology and getting these people to be nanoliterate, even if they're not doing a nanotechnician job. I think it's very important to get them literate in nanotechnology and get an understanding and teach it using, and there's ways to do that. There's resources to make that happen. But there's also ours is really primarily focused on the hands-on aspect of nanotechnology and getting that skill set that I showed earlier, the safety, hygiene, the vacuum technology, the EHS stuff, the patterning skills. There's a whole thing, and we have 6 courses that basically people can take them from Penn State and bring them to EIU or to Puerto Rico or to Arizona and can actually just plop those courses in and modify them as they see fit. We actually have the materials online, all the lectures are online, as well as the PowerPoints are online. They're kind of dry, so you wouldn't want to show them to your class. You'd want to learn the technology, and who'd want to come to a school and say, oh, I'm going to watch somebody else's 50-minute video to actually learn that, and you've got to learn the technology. I mean, so it's basically learning it and then teaching it. So yeah, we have all that.
Any other questions?
Did I answer your question or no?
Well,
Sort of? You're looking.
Are there some courses that would be uniquely nanotechnology and some courses that would be integrated into existing chemistry or physics?
Yeah,
or
there's some that could be there's some aspects of what we do that could be integrated into other coursework. And I encourage you to take a look at what we have and say, oh, that's a good way of doing this. This colloidal gold nanoparticle experiment could be done in chemistry class or biology class. The silver nanoparticles, there's antibacterial microbial inhibition experiments that you could use and those kind of things. So there's all kinds of experiments that could be integrated in, but then there's also that could be integrated into different classes. But these are also available for, I want to do a full program, I want to get somebody that skill set to set them apart and be able to work in my local industry. So, and there's different models across the country of how this is all happening. And we did a webinar, we do webinars, by the way, every month. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow on different things, some nano in whatever, okay? And then also some on program development. So.
A quick question. You were talking about the responsible development of nanotechnology. I wonder, since all manufactured products turn into waste, and some, like Never Wet, waste away during their use, what studies have been done on the effects of particular silver and copper in the environment after it becomes waste or goes down the watershed?
It's an excellent question, and I'm not an expert, but I do know that there's been lots of, that silver has been used like in photo processing for many, many years.
In the nanoscale?
Yeah, some of it is nanoscale silver, basically, yeah. So, but from a standpoint of, yeah, there are studies, and there, I know that the part of the socks that I passed around there, part of it was how much of it is going into the waste stream. And there's one of the socks that you had there, the green ones, were actually a company that I don't think is doing it anymore, but they were coating the fibers with silver. Okay, so that was number one is not that efficient because you're coating these fibers, and they had all kinds of production problems. Whereas the others, they went back to the textile making process where the silver was embedded within the fibers themselves. So there was very little, and there was very little effluent, if you will, going out into the waste stream. So But I can't say what the long-term results of that would be from a standpoint of the ecosystem. So, but there are studies going on, or have been going on, so, yeah.
What are the negatives that people are blaming nanotechnology for it and say, no, unethical to use it?
Oh, that's a good question, Wafiq. I mean, I know that a colleague of mine went to a Nano in Foods conference. There's lots of stuff going on in foods, and you're eating a lot of nanotechnology, oh, by the way. And there's things in food, what's that? Yeah, it was dessert. It was nano donuts and nano cookies. But, in food storage and actually, things like food storage and packaging, smart packaging to be able to say that spoiled or whatever it might be. So there's nano going on and that kind of stuff. But then there's also nano in foods themselves. And he went to the conference and the people there were saying, there's nano in here and we've been doing nano, but we're not calling it nano because there's going to be something out there that's going to say, oh, nano is bad. And then if I've got my cornflakes with nano inside because it enhances the cornflakes, then you're not going to be buying cornflakes anymore because all I know is it's nano and I don't know anything about it. It has nothing to do with that other thing, that bad actor that's going on. So people are very cautious about labeling their products as nano. So there's more of them than we know, but in foods and so on, there's lots of additives that are using in food colorings and food flavorings and things like that. They've been using nano for years. So.
Well, I think every good thing must come to an end. So we'll end it at this point, and we'll leave some time for your own to interact with Bob after we finish. But in the last 30 seconds of this, before we give him a hand, I want to tell you that I have been talking with our chair, Dr. Cheney, and Dr. Stevens, Dr. Daniels, physics, about these 6 courses that are ready. So why don't we have a minor, we have a major, we have something to do with these ready things. We can take this material, we'll do something minor, our course, whatever. So Eastern, I hope, will look into that. Maybe nano is not for Eastern, we don't know yet. So we'll talk about it more. Tomorrow at lunchtime, we are sitting with most of the deans or their representatives and the chairs, particularly, to talk with Bob about is it for Eastern or no? How can we do it this way? Particularly that this week, that's what happened in the news, that there is $1.5 billion, billion with a B, in New York with industry and the government and everything in nanotechnology particularly. And so with 3,000 jobs or something?
Yeah,
so
I saw your...
If Eastern wanted to spearhead something in this area, can we do something or no? I mean, if tell somebody, let's go to the moon 30, 46 years ago, you just said no. But in other words, let's discuss it tomorrow at lunch.
Absolutely.
I invited the chair of Engineering and Technology Department at Parkland to come tomorrow at 10 o'clock to see the demo that he will show us how we can use their machines, equipment for free, I think, or something. And so we can make 2+2 programs with Parkland. So we have the technicians and the... at 3 o'clock, we are meeting with the chair of the engineering technology in Lakeland. So this is our area, and we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll end up at the end of the day saying, nano is not for us, thanks. Or maybe, we'll see. Please give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you.